Welcome to Insights from the Couch, where real conversations meet real life at midlife.
We're Colette and Laura, two therapists and best friends, walking through the journey right alongside you. Whether you're feeling stuck, restless, or just unsure of what's next, this is a space for honest conversations, messy truths, and meaningful change.
And our Midlife Masterclass is now open. If you're looking to level up, get into action, and make midlife the best season yet, go to insightsfromthecouch.org and join our waitlist. Now let's dive in. Welcome back to Insights from the Couch. We have Valerie Jones with us today, and we are going to be talking about the most powerful, brilliant concept ever, which is also the name of her amazing book, The Selfish Year. Welcome, Valerie. Thanks for being here.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
I want to read your bio and then I want to dive right in because your book brought me to tears. It gave me goosebumps. It resonated personally, professionally. This is something every woman needs to hear. Your story, I think, but also the messages. And I could get choked up again. This is how important I think this is. But first, I want to do justice to your bio. So Valerie Jones is the author of The Selfish Year, host of the Selfish Woman podcast, and founder of the Selfish Woman movement. Yes, a global sisterhood, redefining what it means to put yourself first. For more than a decade, Valerie has been a voice in the dark for women navigating divorce, healing, rebuilding, and reclaiming their lives. Today, she leads women far beyond survival and into bold reinvention, magnetic self-worth, and the freedom to build lives that feel as good as they look. Known for her unapologetic storytelling and no BS truth-telling, Valerie brings a mix of fierce honesty, deep empathy, and high voltage inspiration to every stage she steps on. When Valerie speaks, women remember who they are and carry away one message in their bones. You are not broken. You are becoming. Yes. Hallelujah and amen to all of that. Right? So, okay, before we even, I definitely want to get into your story and your background, but can you just explain how you're redefining the word selfish? Because from the first page, right, when you put what selfish means, this is such a paradigm shift for women.
100%. And it was for me too, because selfish is a dirty word for women, and it's a confronting word. And that's why I'm using it, because we need to be confronted with the programming we have been conditioned with, which is selflessness, which sounds great. But for a lot of women, it isn't great. And for me, it wasn't great because it really turns into becoming less of ourself and abandoning ourselves for everybody else and putting ourselves on the back burner. And that is what a noble woman does. That is what a good woman does. If you do that, life will work well for you. But it isn't working well for women. And so selfish, as I redefine it, is being full of self, being so full of your own connection to your power, your truth, your abundance, your possibility, that everything else is an overflow of that divine, sacred selfishness. And so it's really about redefining it to see that when we prioritize ourselves as women, actually, that's when everything starts to fall into place, because you're now living your life from centering yourself instead of out there abandoning yourself for everybody else. We have to come back to a centered truth and start living from that connected place. And I don't know about you, but I wasn't taught that. And a lot of women weren't. And so it's really helping us to have, like you said, that paradigm shift of wait a second, what do we actually need to do here? What is our work in order to live the lives we want, to have what we want, to feel the way we want to feel? And then not only that, but then to have an impact on whether it's our family or our community or the whole freaking world.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yes. And giving from the place, like you say, where we're full, where we're choosing to give because we've already nourished ourselves, rather than from this empty cup of resentment, self-abandonment, and feeling that desperate, I have to do this because it's the right thing. And if I don't, I'm not a good wife. I'm not a good mother. I'm not a good friend. I'm not a good anything.
Exactly. It's the have to and it's the should. And that feels gross for us and it feels gross for others because, like you said, it's the resentment or the exhaustion or the overwhelm or the burnout and the giving and then the guilt that happens as well. And the guilt and the resentment. And so it's just a whole big ball of gross and we need to change it.
But I'll just say for myself, like I have not learned this until the moment I really ran into the wall. Like I took a rescuer strategy and a people pleasing strategy, like totally not identifying it as such. Like that was just, I felt compelled to do it that way. Like there wasn't a whole lot of tension with me. Like I just felt like that was what I had to offer and I was going to take that strategy to the end. And it had to like sort of dismantle me in order for me to confront it. I don't know if that's been your experience, but I mean, I was very blended with this role of being a rescuer to everyone. I still have to very purposefully remove myself from that role because I can feel the urge to do it.
It becomes our identity and therefore it feels very fixed. And when you said hitting a wall, what was the wall for you, Laura?
The wall was just overdoing for people or like I moved my brother into my house. I started a business with him. When he needed a job, I like let him remodel my laundry room for an amount of money that I won't tell you. I rescued people financially like over and over and over again. I still feel compelled to do it, to like my own ruin, really. Like there are just so many times that I have prioritized other people thinking that it was the way forward. So I had to like really ruin myself and dismantle myself to go, oh, and this is another version of that. Like even my son, once we've been having a lot of talks and he wants to go to like, University of Miami, which happens to be like the most expensive college in the nation. And he can easily get a free education in the state of Florida. And old me would like make that happen. Old me would be like,
even if you couldn't afford it.
oh my God, like, what do we need to do? And like, now I'm like, no. Like you're going to be in a Medicaid home if you don't like take care of yourself,
Yeah.
And so it's like, I've had to play it out. That's what I mean by hitting the wall.
Yeah. And I think that so many women have to hit a wall in order to reckon with this because it is so permeated into our identity, myself included, that, the universe comes a knocking and it's that wall. And the pain of the wall becomes bigger than the fear of dealing with this. But to your point also, it's so subconscious that we don't even realize we're doing it. It's just like, this is how I do life. Same with you, right? I was a stay-at-home mom, which I loved. I loved being a stay-at-home mom for 15 years, but I also gave up my power financially to my husband who was bipolar, and it was a disaster. And that was something that I had totally not even seen was within any realm of control for myself. I just didn't even think that it was possible for me to have financial power. And that was just a part of my walls that I kept hitting until the big one. But I think that women are starting to wake up to this realization that, hey, wait a second, I don't think this is who I am because it doesn't feel good.
Yeah. And you have to hit, and I want to get a little bit more into your personal story that you depict beautifully in the book. But one of the things I loved about your story was that you were very honest about sometimes we have to hit the wall again and 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 then again. And then we
one
see
more
it,
time.
but then we still have to keep hitting it. Right. And the permission that this is not, you're not on anybody else's timetable. This is a journey you're undertaking for yourself. And it really doesn't matter how long it takes or how messy you are. It's about reclaiming and rediscovering yourself and living a life on your own terms going forward, whether you're 40 or 80. So tell us a little bit more. Tell the listeners a little more. You're so open and vulnerable about your personal life, which I think is so powerful, and people are going to see themselves in your story. You went through abuse when you were a child, even within your own family. And also when you already mentioned your ex-husband, your first husband, who was bipolar, who attempted suicide as your marriage was ending. Can you share a little bit more about your own emotional arc?
Yeah. I tell it all because I don't want women to feel like they have to hide in shame. And I did for way too long. But yeah, so I was sexually abused by my father as a young girl. But even back then, and I tell this story in the book, I said no. I stood up to my father in that moment, which looking back, I'm like, wow, look at her. She was a badass. But yes, and then, I slid into this marriage, got married at 20, had 3 kids by 30. Like I said, stay at home mom. But what I didn't know at the time was that he was bipolar. He didn't know it either. That progressed through the 24 years of marriage. And then he became an alcoholic. And he was also a narcissist. I don't like to use that label, but he was a diagnosed narcissist. So it was a triple threat of a lot of chaos. And as a people pleaser, as a very strong people pleaser, that fit great for me because I could just abandon myself and, manage the chaos for everybody else. And so many women are the glue that holds everything together. And that was certainly my role that I took on. And it also allowed me to kind of feel like the good guy in the situation. Like, look at me holding it all together while you're just falling apart in a mess. And all of that, of course, came to a crashing crescendo of explosive situations and very painful unraveling to the end of our marriage. And that was really the first arc of my undoing. But I very quickly just jumped right into another relationship because why not? That feels good. Let's do that. And I really thought I had healed. I'd done a lot of therapy. I was becoming a coach at that point. And I was like, I have tools, I have skills. Even my therapist gave me the green light to date. Like, you are so good, girl. You get out there.
But he said, don't lose yourself again, right?
He said, as long as you don't lose yourself. And I was like, oh, that is not going to happen. That won't happen. I'm fine. And quickly got remarried. And then that was the culmination of really the end of my wall. My wall came 2 years after that second marriage.
Wow. And it's such a powerful story. I mean, you met this man and it sounds like it was a very limerent kind of passion driven love. And you got married in Italy and you moved very spontaneously to Spain. And then you take us through in the book what's happening as the second marriage is struggling and unraveling. And you're really fighting to stay with yourself and honor your instincts, but at the same time, hoping that maybe that can work out as the marriage works out. That must have been so hard for you to endure. And I'm so in awe of how you didn't allow yourself to narrate that second marriage as a failure.
No, I don't see it as a failure. I don't see divorce as a failure.
Me neither.
I don't care what happened. I don't care who initiated it. I don't see it as a failure. And, I was speaking at a conference a couple of weeks ago in Scottsdale, and I had every woman, it was a women's conference. I asked every woman who'd gone through divorce to stand up, and we gave a round of applause. And it was over half the room. But I said, divorce doesn't get acknowledged. Divorced women have shame and guilt and stigma, failure, and we're hiding it. And we need to celebrate it because if you've been through a divorce, you are a warrior. You've been through one of the hardest things ever. And we need to see it as something that is not happening to us, but happening for us. And I am grateful for both of my marriages. And I'm very grateful for my experiences, as difficult as they were, because I wouldn't be talking to you right now if I hadn't gone through what I've gone through. Yeah. And the difference is, are you going to take the lessons, like we said before, right? Are you going to take the lessons and allow it to shape you into the woman that you need to be in order to have the life you want? Or are you going to just bypass, like I did after my first marriage, and just kind of go into avoidance and distraction and find something new and shiny to take your mind off your own issues? But divorce is that invitation. And as long as we can see it as that invitation to personal transformation, it can never be a failure.
I agree. I'm in the club with you. I'm in the club with you. And I always talk about my divorce for this very reason, because I also see people come out of divorce stuck in the shame and hiding and not willing to put their heart out there. Or, as you say, the hyper distraction. Even Esther Perel just the other day talked about divorce as transformation. Not only am I grateful for both of my marriages, but I'm also grateful for my divorce. It forged my career. It made me into the woman I am. So I think it's really important, though, that we say this over and over, and telling our own stories and the messiness, whether you're a coach or you're a therapist, you've been doing this work for a million years, none of us is impervious to being human. And the human struggle has nothing to do with your professional capacity. And at times it can really enhance it. So I think it's so powerful and important. And I wonder, as we dive into some of the lessons about the book, can you just talk a little bit about, Laura and I do a lot of this in our work. Like Laura's an IFS therapist and I'm an EMDR therapist and do a lot of ego state. But I love how you put it. You know, we do a lot of inner child work, and I call the wise self the sage self. But when you talk about first girl and hurt girl, and you weave that all throughout the book, can you tell our listeners a little bit about that? Because I think it's a beautiful frame that's very accessible.
It's something I came up with for myself that really worked, and I wanted to really share it with the readers. First girl is how I see us before the world told us that we had to shapeshift in order to be loved and accepted. That version of me, like I talked about sexual abuse when I was 8 years old. Before that, first girl was the bright-eyed, creative, fun, carefree girl who was connected to herself and didn't care what people thought. And I think for some women that might not even be like, that might be pre-birth. You might not even remember first girl, but she's there. She's there and she exists, and she is the one who was meant to carry us through life. But because of life that happens, whether it's in childhood or adulthood, whatever, we start to realize that first girl can't come with us. She's not accepted. She's too much. She's too loud. She's too noisy. She's too whatever. She's too quiet. All of the messages about how she's not acceptable start to build that that subconscious program. And so we kind of have to put her in a closet and put duct tape over her mouth and exile her because she can't come. We have to survive. And so Hurt Girl comes in and takes over. And Hurt Girl is the one who's protecting us. She's keeping us safe. She knows what to do. She knows how to play the people pleaser or the good girl or the nice one or the controller or the athlete or the perfectionist, whatever it is that we start learning that we have to do or be in order to be loved and accepted. Hurt Girl takes on that job and she does a great job. And for me, it was the people pleaser, like abandon yourself for everybody else and override your own discomfort to make everybody else comfortable, and don't rock the boat and don't, create conflict. And so she did a great job of keeping me safe. But then what happens as we become the woman is the Hurt Girl is running the show and we don't even realize it. But at some point that wall comes and we're like, why do I not know who I am anymore? Or why do I feel so disconnected? Or why can I not show up in my life in the way I want or feel the way I want? Because Hurt Girl's still running the show. And so part of the work for me and what I talk about in the book is going back and rescuing First Girl and getting her out of that closet and bringing her back and letting her know it's safe now. Yeah, take that tape off her mouth and be like, it's safe now because I'm going to keep you safe. And my work was to learn how to stay with myself and create safety for First Girl to show up. And that is what it's all about. That's what it's all about, because that's when our creativity comes back and our inspiration and our joy and our happiness and our intuition. It all starts coming back online.
Totally agree. I love how the sort of conduit for this becomes this idea of being selfish. It reminds me of like Martha Beck's work, where she has a big line that says, when you don't know what to say, try the truth. And she did this whole experiment where for a year, all she did was tell the truth. So it's like, hey, you want to come to dinner? It's like, no, I'm exhausted. Thanks anyway.
Right.
It's like, can you be honest with yourself? And that's like kind of the process you start taking on, right? Of like tuning in with intuition of like, what do I really want?
Hmm.
Like, tell us about that process for you.
Yeah. Because as a self-abandoner, you're really good at just doing what everybody else wants. And it took me to Spain, like you said. I was living there with my husband, and we had this beautiful life externally. We bought this historic apartment in downtown in Valencia, and we restored it, and we furnished it, and we're sitting in cafes, and we're traveling, and this beautiful life. But inside, I was dying inside. I was so unhappy, and I didn't know why. I couldn't fix it. None of the tools I knew how to use were working. And I realized that, like, I don't know how to take care of myself in this situation. I don't know how to feel okay here. And I feel like I'm the problem, but I can't fix myself. And so and so many women I talk to can like feel that way, right? It's like, I feel like there's something wrong with me, but I don't know what it is and I don't know how to fix it. And so I feel stuck and scared and trapped.
Oh God, there's just so much. I mean, I have tears in my eyes, even as you describe it, because we are trying to get back to this place where yes, life beats us up and hopefully we learn every failure is a lesson. Failures aren't failures. But when you're in the moment, we're trying to deal with very complicated, heavy feelings that are confusing. It can feel like tumbling around in the laundry machine when you're in the midst of it. Some people have never really connected to these parts of self. They don't even know first girl is locked in the closet with duct tape on. And there is a life that's possible that we reconnect with that girl, that we let her out, that we actually feel, like you said, our creativity and our joy. But the reality is, for most of us, because we've abandoned, and often we don't even know how much or how often, it can go back to the first days of life, there's going to be some suffering along the way. There's going to be some hardship and struggle and really reckoning with yourself and being still. I was so glad you emphasized this. We have to sit with our feelings. We have to be alone with ourselves. We can't bypass. There is no shortcut to really freeing that first girl. But if you do this work, and a lot of it is, it's not even saying you have to go to therapy for years. It's being willing to really listen to the parts inside of you. And like you did with Leo, your second husband that you talk about in the book, you gave yourself permission when you didn't know the answers. I don't know what I want. Part of me wants to go see him again. Part of me thinks this is over, but I'm not ready. I don't have the answer. So I'm going to give myself permission to do what I want to do in the moment and like pay attention to how I feel as I do it and trust myself to follow with curiosity and compassion, whatever information and data I get from the experience. And I think this is what all three of us are trying to help women learn to do. We have this beautiful internal compass, if only we'll tune in. And it's going to be messy at times and painful at times, but we have all the answers within, right?
100%. We do. It's just that we've maybe never been taught or shown how to find those answers. And so we're looking for them outside of ourselves. And yeah, sitting quietly by myself was something I'd been running from my whole life. I didn't want to do that. That sounded terrifying. Even after all the therapy and all of the work I had done, I realized that there was this deeper level that I'd never sat with. And it wasn't actually even the pain as much as it was the connection to myself that I didn't know how to create. And so I just avoided doing it altogether. But when I sat still for that year and got quiet, I started to realize that that connection, and I call it my inner being, that connection is everything. And yeah, that's where my truth lies. And I started to hear her voice a little more and a little more as I did that work. And then I love that you said everything is data, because I say that all the time. It's all data. So yeah, have a conversation and then observe and then sit quietly with yourself and go, what do I notice there? What did he say that triggered me, and what is it triggering in me, and why? And get curious instead of just sitting in the feelings. I started to learn how to observe and see things as data. And that really helped me to rise above the washing machine spin cycle, like you talked about, and get curious and actually start to find my own wisdom. And yeah, I gave myself permission to take as long as I needed, which turned out to be a year, to decide whether this relationship, this marriage was going to be salvageable or not. And there was a lot of pressure to make that decision quicker. But I knew that I couldn't rush it, because then I'd just be doing what somebody else wanted yet again.
Yeah, but I'm glad you're talking about that part, because I talk about this all the time with my clients, because inevitably when you're choosing yourself, or you're choosing to tune into self, you are going to have to disappoint other people. And this is so hard. Like hey, this marriage might not work out, and having to endure their disappointment, or the disappointment of your kids, or the disappointment of like friends that think they don't understand your journey or whatever.
Or disapproval.
Just disapproval.
Too. Yeah.
And I mean, tell me about how in that year you were able, or just in life in general, how you're able to sort of go through what I call like the valley of disappointment, which is where you're disappointing others, and how you were able to sort of navigate that.
It's so true. I mean, when my first marriage ended and my husband was in a psych ward, and then, I called his family and said, you need to come pick him up. He's not coming home. There was a lot of conversations from his family about, but he's struggling with alcohol abuse and you need to support him. He needs you. Yeah. He needs you to be there for him. That was a lot of pressure to stay. And I'm like, you're not married to this guy. Like, let's see you do that, and then again, when I was contemplating the second divorce, there was obviously a lot of pressure from my ex, but, also society. Like, wait, 2 divorces? I don't want to disappoint society. Like, it's crazy where the people pleasing mind goes to. Totally. But honestly, I would say for me, I got to the point where I was like, how much longer am I going to live this way? Yeah. How much longer am I going to suffer, which is actually self-created suffering, by choosing consciously now. Now I can see it. Now I'm responsible for my choice. And I'm consciously choosing to abandon myself just so I don't hurt someone's feelings, or just so I don't disappoint somebody. I'm not going to do it anymore. And I made a decision. And honestly, once you see it, you're responsible for it. And that decision was powerful, because I decided I will never abandon myself again for anybody else. And once I decided that, I started to build the resiliency and the courage to be able to make choices and then stand in the fire of somebody else's disapproval or disappointment and realize I didn't die. And not only that, it's forging me into a stronger woman. And so I would say it's the decision. We can waffle around it all we want and worry about it. But ultimately, if you see that you need to stop disappointing yourself instead of disappointing other people, you have to decide, I'm not going to do it anymore. And then you do the damn thing. And then you find out what you're made of and what you're capable of. And you start feeling proud of yourself. That decision is very difficult. And I think it's easy to make in isolation, which is why we need community and support. But for me, it got to that point where it's like, I'm just deciding to choose myself. Let's go.
And then sitting in, it's so important though, what you're saying, it is making the decision. So getting clear about, I'm not going to do this anymore, and making the decision to do it. And then when you stand in the fire of the disapproval and the disappointment, and you see that you don't die, that it is survivable, that is when for me, that's when something shifted. Things like this that used to cause me so much stress and consternation. And Laura, to your point about, just saying what Martha Beck said, just saying, no, you're tired. Same thing. I got invited to this women's group and I had put it on my calendar for a certain date and said I'd try to come. And that day, instead of making up an excuse, I wrote the woman and said, I'm so grateful to be invited and I'd love to go, but I am exhausted and just not feeling that well. And I have to just go home and take care of myself. I hope to come another time. And then peace out. And she was, of course, very nice about it. But you have to exercise these muscles. And if you're not saying no to these smaller things and being truthful and honoring yourself, it's going to be impossible to do it for the bigger things. This has to permeate all areas of our life, right?
I love that example because it's such a real life example of the tendency to abandon yourself to make somebody else happy or what you perceive would make them happy versus staying with yourself and making a decision that's from a place of connection and also aligned with your own values and integrity. Because one day it might be like, I don't feel like doing that, but let me check in. Actually, I need to do it. Even though my mind and body say no, I'm going to say yes. Or like you did in that situation, you checked in and said the answer is no. And that's the difference between people pleasing, which is just automatic yes, 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 versus is it my yes or is it my no? And then being willing to make that decision to stand firm on that for you. That's such a great example of how that looks in real time. And yeah, it's never easy. I think it does get easier. But I always say to women who are, getting divorced, I say, welcome to your villain era, because you are going to be the villain in somebody's story. And we can't control that.
It's a gift, though. It's a huge gift. Like, I mean, I'm watching my daughter go through a breakup right now. And I think like her ability to go through the breakup and sit with the feelings enable her now, she's 22, to make other decisions in dating. Like the fact that she's done it, and it's a horrible feeling, right? To even be the person who wants it and break up. They're very close. And then the next time she sees that something isn't working for her, she can make that decision again. And I think that divorce is one of those things that, yeah, you do go through a villain era and you burn in some ways, but you get this like ability to say, I'm never going to compromise or make decisions that compromise my sense of self again. Mm-hmm. I hope most people get there, but I think it's an incredible conduit for growth.
It is. It is. With the contrast or the conflict or the difficulty is how we grow. And so by trying to avoid it, by making everybody else happy, we're actually overriding our own potential for growth, and it stagnates us. So yeah, being willing with support to stand in that decision and say, this is a no for me, or this is a yes for me, or whatever it is you saying, I want the lesson, I want the growth, and I'm willing to get uncomfortable in order to get it, because it matters to me, because I matter. And I got to a point where I said to myself, do I want this thing, divorce or, weight loss or career or, whatever it is I want? Do I want that bad enough that I'm willing to get uncomfortable? Do I want it more than my own comfort? And with the divorce, I want my freedom more than I want my comfort. And I was uncomfortable for that whole year, basically. But you start to build a comfort zone around feeling uncomfortable. You start to get more, it never feels easy, but you start to be able to tolerate it better. Oh, this feeling, it's uncomfortable. Why? Because I'm growing, because I'm stretching. Discomfort is a portal. And when you're willing to go through it, man, that's when you get all of the rewards.
Yeah. And it really is listening. Like you said, it is not that yes is right or yes is wrong, or no is right or no is wrong. It's different in every situation. It is learning to tune in and actually hear your real voice and then honor it. It's getting rid of all the shoulds and getting clear on why you're doing what you're doing. I mean, I just did another huge pushback, big decision that I'm still not sure I handled right. I had prepared to handle it a certain way and then been given advice to handle it a different way. And I pivoted, and now it wasn't really me the way I did it, but there were reasons that I chose. So I'm still learning right now. I'm open. Instead of judging and shaming myself, even though I feel very uncomfortable about it. I feel some self-doubt. I feel even a little bit of self-judgment lurking on the periphery, but just trying to stay with, okay, maybe in the end, I'm going to decide that I didn't handle it the way I really wanted to, but then I'm going to learn and I'll handle something like that better in the future, right? It was a new experience for me that I didn't know how to navigate. So I think the more this thing, it's like it becomes a ball rolling forward. It gets easier, but also you build your confidence. You really, really build your own self-trust so that you can handle when it doesn't go right or when you messed up, right? I'm not afraid to say I messed up. I tried my best. And sometimes we listen, like divorce, Laura, you're saying, it's this great transformation and it's such a, right. No. It is. I think it is. If you take the invitation, but also you said, I'm not going to, lose myself again. You both said that. Okay. I said that when I got divorced, but I've still self-abandoned again. I've lost myself again. Like life is a journey it's not a perfect thing where I never people please anymore. I people please less, but we're still works in progress.
Exactly. It's not about perfection, but I think it is about a declaration to say, I'm going to do my best to not abandon. Have I done it? Sure. But every time I do it now, I catch it quicker.
Me too.
And it gets easier for me to bring it back. Yeah. There isn't the shame around it anymore. To your point, it's like, oh, I screwed that one up. All right, let me figure that out.
Yeah.
And it's fine. And this fear of failure starts to fall away. I think we become braver. We become bigger and bolder. We're willing to take more risks because it's like, let me figure this out. I've started to see life as a game and there are no wrong choices because I'm going to just make a decision and life's going to meet me there and give me an opportunity to grow. And that has led me on the biggest adventures of my life by living that way and not having some pressure of having to make the perfect decision every time. I just made a big decision last week that was like super scary and out of my comfort zone. And I spent a whole day going, oh my God, should I do it or not? And yes or no? And realizing there's still that subconscious desire to abdicate my power and have somebody else make the decision for me. Because, hey, if it doesn't work out, then it's not my fault. I don't have to take responsibility. But it's that catching myself and be like, no, this is my decision. Tune in. What is the right thing? And I don't know what's going to happen, but doesn't that make life interesting and fun?
But what you're talking about, Valerie, is like you're playing the game. Like you're in the game, you're in the arena, you're like making moves, you're passing go. And sometimes you collect 200 and sometimes you go to jail, It's like, but like there's so many women kind of sit on the sidelines and they're passive observers of their own life. And like, I think what we're saying is by this age, for better or for worse, play the game.
Get in the game.
Get in the game.
Exactly. And when you get in the game, you get beaten up and knocked around and bloody, but you also get the victories and you get the adventure and you're not bored.
Right. And you feel alive and you are connected to your life force and you're rewarded and you're fulfilled and you're more confident. I mean, I wouldn't trade it. I have had huge failures and suffered for them. I wouldn't trade them. I really wouldn't.
Exactly.
And this brings me to another central point I want to make sure that you do a beautiful job of highlighting that Laura and I always talk about in our work. Tell us about your stance on radical responsibility and choices, because this is so pivotal. And in fact, we're approaching the part where we do this in our women's group, our Midlife Masterclass. So I love the way you put it. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. Because not only was I a people pleaser, I was also a victim most of my life. I had the victim paradigm, which is basically just feeling powerless, feeling like life is happening to me and I'm just along for the ride and I'm in a reactive mode to everything and not connected to my power of choice. And that was something that I just was living my life as well, which is so miserable, honestly, because you just are living in a state of blaming everybody else for your own experience. And that is not to let anybody off the hook, that we still hold others accountable. And I think that's the thing that people struggle with when I say radical responsibility for self, is it's like, well, but what about what they did? Yeah, this isn't about letting anyone off the hook. We get to hold accountability. We get to speak our truth. We get to say that happened and that wasn't okay and it's not fair and that wasn't my fault. But now, what am I going to do about it? And that's the exciting piece, because the radical responsibility that I had to learn was whatever happened in the past happened. But now in the present, it's my responsibility to heal myself. No one else is going to do that for me. That is my job. And this is what I am on the planet to learn. So let me learn it. And when I started taking radical responsibility, I had to let go of a lot of that blame. And I had to turn that mirror around and start looking at myself. And that's what I'd been running from most of my life, was my deep sense of shame and self-hatred and guilt and all of the darkness inside of me that as a victim or a people pleaser, I could ignore and kind of point outward to somebody else as being the culprit, let's say. But when I started to turn around and look within, and throughout my selfish year, I really sat with myself in isolation for most of that year. I didn't run away from that. And the radical responsibility was, let me look at myself. Let me look at how I have knowingly or unknowingly contributed to my experiences in my life. And then what is my responsibility to own, to heal, and to deal with, and that is really hard to do. It's humbling, but at the same time, it's so powerful, because coming out the other side of radical responsibility, I realized I have choice in every situation. I always have a choice, whether it's a choice to think differently, have a different perspective, act differently, change my feelings, or do something about it. I always have a choice. And what is my sovereign choice in this moment? I am responsible for that. And that is, on the one hand, daunting to come to that realization, but it's also so freeing, because it's then not about anybody else. This is my life to do with what I will. What am I going to do with it? That's my responsibility.
It's so powerful.
It really
I mean,
is.
you really can't get there without this piece. No one can. Right? We have to take we always have choices. And if you don't assume responsibility for your life, which isn't the same as you're saying, as letting people off the hook or saying that you haven't been harmed or hurt and that it wasn't okay and it wasn't fair. But now what are you going to do with it? Like, it is your life. Get in the driver's seat.
That's right. And even if you can't change your situation, when I was in my second marriage and experiencing emotional abuse and felt very stuck and trapped, even if I couldn't change the situation in that moment, what I learned was I can take care of myself. I can learn how to keep myself safe. There are things I can do. And so I talk to a lot of women who feel stuck and trapped in a relationship, in a marriage, and like, well, I can't get out right now. I don't have the money, or whatever it is, right? Real life reasons. I always say, like, what can you do right now today? And, that's why in the book I have selfish strategies, because it's like, I don't care what's going on in your life. I care what's going on in you. And right now you can journal for 5 minutes. Right now you can start practicing nervous system regulation. Right now you can practice speaking up, or whatever it is. But it's those micro steps that we do every day that will guide us into our freedom. It's not going to happen overnight, and it doesn't happen in one fell swoop. It's those daily little choices. And every time you do it, you remind yourself of the truth of who you are and how powerful you are. And that everyday action really does change your life.
This is the perfect place to wrap up, because it's so, I think the reason, like, as you're talking, every hair on my body is standing up. And there's tears because it's just beautiful and it's central. And I think all three of us, we want this for every woman out there. We're all on the journey ourselves. And maybe even among the three of us, we're in slightly different places with it. Who knows? But it is something we all believe in. And it's so transformative. This is the pathway to freedom and joy. It really is. There's no other one. And once you assume responsibility, I think life unfolds in front of you in a very different way. Oh, and just one more thing I wanted to say about your book. And you guys who are listening, go get the book, The Selfish Year by Valerie Jones. It's so good. I mean, I couldn't stop reading it. I absolutely loved it. And when you describe, it's later in the book, seeing this woman dancing, this older woman dancing in the surf with wild abandon and how much emotion it brought for you. And then you describe how you envied her, you wanted to be her. That place brought me to tears because this is what we're talking about here. It's not anything else for anyone else. It's living the life, dancing the way you want to dance in the surf, not giving a flying fuck who sees you, what they think, whether they approve or disapprove, or if you give a flying fuck, not letting it stop you, right? At least that.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm getting emotional just thinking about that moment because you took me right back to that, watching that woman dancing. And I was in such a low place when I saw that. And I watched her and I was like, man, isn't that what we all want? That's what I want. I want to feel that freedom and that connection and that presence and that joy, and watching her just fully expressed just for herself, not for anybody else, was such a moment of like, that's for you too. That's what I felt like the universe was saying to me. It's like, you see that? That's for you. You want it? Go get it.
Go get it.
And I did. And I'm dancing now, like in my life, and I'm there. And it's like those moments are reflections for us to remind us of what's possible when you see somebody else having an experience or whatever it is that you long for deep down. That is not a cruel joke from the universe. That is a sign that is meant for you, and take that as evidence that is possible for you too. And then just go for it and get it and find the way. Because once you get on that path of saying, I want it, the opportunities will start to come. Your teachers will come. Your community will arrive. The path will start to unfold under your feet as you start to take those little steps. But just believe it's possible for you. That's what you got to start with. And that was that moment for me of like, man, that looks fucking awesome. I want to feel that way.
And then commit, right? Like that's another part I'm really getting today is like make the decision that you're worth it and begin to follow the path.
Make the decision you're worth it before it feels true.
Yes.
Don't wait. Yes. You know, right? Don't wait to feel like, oh, I love myself so much. I'm going to go do this. It's not going to happen that way. Decide before it feels true. And then everything you do from that decision will start to change that for you. And you will start to feel more and more true as you act on that decision. But don't wait till you're ready. Don't wait till you don't feel afraid. It's never going to happen. You got to just jump off that diving board and trust there's water in the pool. And there is.
I love that. I could sit here and talk about this all day. I really could. I have to go into session. So unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap us up. But this is amazing. Tell everybody before we go how they can find you and your book and work with you, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so The Selfish Year, you can get it everywhere you buy books, or you can go to my website, valeriejones.ca, because I am a Canadian up here in Vancouver. So you can check out my website, and Instagram is where I yak about all the stuff. So The Valerie Jones on Instagram. You can find me there. All my programs and everything are on my website as well. So I'd love to, connect with anybody who wants to just shoot me a message and talk.
Oh, wonderful. And we will have all of these links in the show notes. Thank you so much for being here, Valerie. It's so good. This is the core of life. So this is possible for all of you guys listening, and maybe you're already on your way, and let this serve as a reminder of what's out there and what you can have and the kind of life you can live. We hope you got some great insights from our couch today, and we will see you all next week.
Bye, guys.